Hello, this is Dr. Vyas with New Wave Wellness Center, and in this video I'm taking on the topic of sunblock. See, it's the summer months right now. That means it's nice warm temperatures. Everybody wants to be outside in the sun, but what do we all know? That well, if you're out in the sun, you need to be putting on some sunblock to prevent skin cancer. Well, in this video I'm going to show you 4 different facts that you might have not known about sunblock. And the first thing I'm going to start with is the FDA actually did a recent study this beginning of this year where they said that out of the 16 chemicals that they use to make any of these sunblock products, only 2 of them are considered safe. And those are titanium dioxide and zinc oxide. You may have seen some of those on the labels when you read. Any of the other ones that you might read on the label in the back here are actually harmful. Some of these things, so anytime you put anything on your skin, we all know that, anything you put on your skin, because it's very porous, you actually absorb it and it goes directly into your bloodstream. So talking about that, one of the chemicals here is called oxybenzone, is actually known to be what's called a endocrine disruptor. Now your endocrine system is the system in your body which not only controls your metabolism, but actually produces a lot of different hormones. Now if you have something that disrupts the hormone production in your body, it's not a good thing for you, right? So let's talk about a few of these things. I'll show you exactly what you want to look for when you're looking for a sunblock. So let's talk about it. So now let me tell you the first fact right now. We all know that when you're looking for sunscreen, they all have a number on them. Like say I got this one that says plus 60, this one says 70. And we always think that anything with a higher SPF, and SPF means a sun protection factor. That's what these numbers are. So we think that anything with a higher SPF is going to give you better protection. Well, that's not the case. Again, the FDA and the dermatological associations actually put out this thing that anything that's above SPF 15 is enough to give you enough protection. So I'll tell you this, I'm just reading some facts here. SPF 15 filters out 93% of the UVB. That's the sun, the sun rays that we get, the ultraviolet rays B are blocked, 93% of those. When you go up to 30 SPF, it blocks off 97%. And by the time you're at about 50 SPF, 99% of the UVB rays, those are the ones that cause sunburns, are actually blocked. Now, when we know about that UVB, there's also something called UVA. That's one of the other ultraviolet lights that are produced or come from the sun. And those are the ones, most of these sunblocks only protect you from UVB. UVA is the one that's known to create your wrinkling of the skin and, coloration, discoloration, that kind of thing. So we also need something that's called a broad spectrum, something that's going to contain protection from UVA and UVB. So those are a few things that you want to look for, not just, something that says high SPF. Now, the number 2 thing that, a lot of people might not know about is the spray versus the lotion. What should you use, the spray or the lotion? Well, as I mentioned to you, a lot of these sprays actually contain what's called those chemicals we talked about. These are chemical sunblocks. Not most, but some of the lotions that you use are actually mineral-based ones. I'll talk about that in just a second. But the chemical-based ones are the ones that contain, as I mentioned to you, there's oxybenzene, there's avobenzene, there's octocrylene. There's so many of these funky names. I'll list some down in the video for you. But those are the ones that, when I just mentioned, if you apply on the skin, it goes directly into the skin. So think about spraying this all over your skin. What are you doing? You're actually inhaling those vapors. Now, this comes into big thing for children. They say that kids, again, about, not just being absorbed through the skin, but when you're spraying it on your child and they're inhaling this, it's going directly into their lungs. So it actually causes lung problems, but also the endocrine disruptors and cytotoxicity. Kids are more prone to these things because of what's called bioaccumulation. Think about years and years and years of you just spraying, sprays on and putting some of these chemicals on their skin. It's accumulating in their body and creates all sorts of reactions. There's also certain things called androgenic effects. Androgens are your male hormones, like your testosterone. If you're spraying a boy, with a lot of the sunblocks, sometimes it actually becomes anti-androgenic, which means their your testosterone production goes down. We don't want any of that stuff in our kids. So that's why the biggest things that we use, I'll show you what we do with some of these. Now, the other thing we have also heard about is, we need the sun because we actually get vitamin D, or we produce vitamin D when you're out in the sun. Well, as I mentioned to you, the sunblocks block UVA and UVB, but most of them UVB. So that means they're actually blocking your body's production of natural vitamin D. So that's one of the big reasons why anybody in the Northern Hemisphere is very deficient in vitamin D. So to get your optimal amount of vitamin D, well, you have to supplement, or you can supplement, but just being out in the sun, what I recommend is about twice a week for about 15 to 30 minutes, depending on the skin. or depending on the color of your skin. If you're very light or you're very fair, you might need to sit in just for a little shorter period of time. And if you're darker, you might need to sit in longer period of time. So about 15 to 30 minutes twice a week of no sunblock or nothing. Sit out in the sun, get some sun, let your body produce the natural vitamin D. When you allow it to do that, well, after the 15-20 minutes, go ahead and put some sunblock on so you're not getting any issues with skin cancer or any of that. So that's one big thing. So vitamin D production is a big thing. We get that from the sun. And if you're not producing enough, well, we know we have all sorts of deficiency problems when you don't have vitamin D in the body. Now, those are one of the few of the big things there. So now people always ask me, okay, so which one is actually good for me? Or what should I be using if you're telling me everything, sunblock and chemicals are bad for you? Well, as I mentioned, some of these ones that sprays or even some of the lotion ones contain a lot of chemicals. So they're the chemical sunblocks. Now, there's other ones. Well, we have, of course, the organic companies and a lot of these different companies. What they're actually calling them are mineral-based sunscreens. These ones are the ones that contain nothing but, well, you can't read this, but it's zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. These are things, again, this is one of those companies you might have heard of. It's called Honest. I've always used this on my kids there. And then there's this other one for babies and stuff. These are certain things that contain nothing but just those minerals, zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. How to tell those is, have you ever put a sunblock on you and it stayed on your skin like a very white layer? Well, that means it's a good sunblock. If you're using any of those things that are completely absorbed and you feel like your skin is dry, you don't want one of those because that's been absorbed into your skin, and those are the ones that create all those problems we just talked about. So again, if you're shopping for this thing, I'm not telling you which is a good brand or anything like that, but what you want to look for is not the chemical-based ones. You want to look for something that's the mineral-based sunblocks. Zinc oxide, titanium dioxide. Those are the two main ones. And as I mentioned, again, I'm not saying that you need to be out in the sun without sunblock. You want to put some sunblock on because, again, the rays hit you and there's a lot of possibility. Skin cancer is very high on the list of any of the cancers that a lot of people, develop. So we don't want to get any of those skin cancers. So sunblock's always a good, safe option, but know which ones and do the right ones. All right. I hope that information has helped you. And again, if you have any questions, I will post a few of those ingredients down in my comment section here. So at least you have an understanding of what are the chemicals to stay away from. But again, if you have any questions or comments, please post them below and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.